Show of hands, who's heard of Nutanix here? Got some very happy customers there, which is good to see, so thank you. Okay, so I've got a slight advantage. I'm going to just start by sharing what's going on in the market. And this is all, you know, these are just tabs within my browser. The market is talking, and I say this is, if you look at Amazon's sales, let me just get rid of this rubbish that's just come up as an advert. Amazon now are turning over $8 billion a year in revenue from AWS. That's up 78%, okay? So the public cloud is attractive to lots of people for various reasons. Agility, speed, and all that good stuff. Whereas if you look at the traditional people within the market providing sort of three-tier architectures, I haven't picked up, I've put a few up here really, but Nimble on Friday, their share price dropped by 50%. Pure were dragged with them. Their price dropped significantly from IPO from I think $18 to 17. HP missed their numbers yesterday. Although that says that's gone up, if that, let me just refresh that. That chart shows that after hours trading, their share price has gone down. EMC, very similar, NetApp as well. All good companies that provide very reliable infrastructure that has been proven over years to deliver reliable infrastructure. Just the market is saying that actually they want simplicity going forward, and building three-tier architectures and housing that themselves is not what they want. And so the market is definitely moving away from build it yourself, three-tier architectures, lots of complexity, and it is predominantly driven by the likes of Amazon and Azure. So I'm just going to use this whiteboard actually. So I think, why is it that this market's moving so much in our favour? Is really, it's largely down to the fact that in most organisations, the people and budgets, and I apologise for my writing, associated with running an infrastructure has largely remained static over a period of time. But the scale and complexity of IT is increasing. And what I mean by this is, you know, looking at OpenStack and software defined and, you know, VDI and all these complex projects that people need to deliver. It's not a very good pen, so that wasn't a good start. And the challenge that you've got, I've just noticed that's a flip chart pen, so I've ruined it already. The challenge that you've got is, how do you address, you know, this gap? And if you don't address this gap, what it means is you miss projects. You know, IT, largely within a lot of the customers that we go and talk to, are seen as underperforming. They can't meet deadlines because the cloud is really kind of easy. It's agile and it's flexible. But the biggest challenge that we see right now is actually the expectations of the users and the business has increased. Everybody now, people like Apple have made IT really, really easy to consume, okay? And I use the example of my 78-year-old mother who's got an iMac connected with her iPhone and an iPad that all backs up to her backup, whatever it's called, time machine and all that good stuff, and it never fails, right? Just absolutely works, and she thinks she's an expert, and I've synced her up with iCloud. It just kind of works. Just like every partner within a law firm or banker that you've got now can turn around and say, well, I need this project, but you can't deliver that for, what, 3 weeks, 3 months, but I can spin this up in the cloud really, really quickly. And so this is the biggest shift that we've seen, and the growth of that 78% of the Amazon sales growth is come from the traditional way of delivering IT doesn't meet the expectations of the business and the users, and it means that you can't take advantage of the, you know, you can't look at new technologies because you're still trying to build it yourselves. So all we're saying as Nutanix is we are looking to fill that gap, you know, bridge that gap and automate as much as we can in the data center and just make it simple. And just like you turn up at Apple and you go and buy an iMac or a MacBook, you take it out of its box, connect it to the power, press the on button, and it works. There's no loading software, there's no putting discs in, the extra discs in the back, it just works. And that's where Nutanix is coming from. So just going back to this sort of expectations of the business, that is being driven, as we talked about, around this public cloud versus on-prem or private cloud argument that's going on within the industry. So you've got this kind of battle that's going on, and you've got IT over here. So security guys like private cloud because we've got control, we've got SLAs, we've got security. So you've got all of that good stuff over there that IT like, and actually it's actually really quite important to most organisations, but users don't get it because they just want to consume IT quickly. So over here you've got all the stuff, there's SLA, security. But over here you've got the public cloud, and this is what the users like. The users love the public cloud because it's simple. You can spin stuff up really quickly, so it's really agile. And initially, it's low cost. Couple of cents to just stick some data out there and just back it up or whatever, it's low cost. So this kind of battle's going on, and this is really kind of lovely, and this is kind of what IT like. But why is it that IT can't get this simplicity, agility, cost, lower cost at the same price? Well, because in most private clouds, you don't use the same infrastructure and the same ways of working as they do in the public cloud. So our founders are the founders of the Google file system, which is the software that powers all the Google data centers around the world. So if you do Google search, load anything in Google Docs, they had the same decision that most of you guys have got when it comes to refreshing your infrastructure, your server, storage, virtualization layer within your data center. And their choice, several years ago was, do we go and buy HP, EMC, NetApp, or do we actually take control of our own destiny? So what these guys did was they built these 2U blocks of infrastructure that included storage directly attached to the x86 layer. But the key thing is they create this very, very smart piece of software. And this is kind of the software-defined side of things. And these 2U blocks just scale linearly as and when they grow. So Google search, absolutely, continue to grow. 80% of Google's projects never make it out to the public. They're kind of test and dev, and they start small. And guess what? If it doesn't make it out to as a successful project, they throw it away and start again. So all we're doing is taking the way that the public cloud build their data centers in these 2U single-tier infrastructures and helping you guys build your own private cloud using that technology. So you get all of this that the CISO and the CIO love, but you get all of this. And what we're about is actually that we believe, we talk about the fact that we are the bridge to the cloud. The cloud is coming, even law firms, and I use them because I've worked with those guys for ages who, up until a year ago, said we will never put anything in the public cloud. Even those guys now are starting to say, yeah, you know what, there are certain workloads that we'd like to put in the cloud. So what Nutanix, we've got a completely different way of working to the three-tier architecture guys, which is we believe that the answer is hybrid. And we try and work out what the applications that you've got within your organization and where they should sit for compliance reasons or for cost reasons. And it's about plotting on this spectrum here between private and public where you fit. And it's about putting the applications where they are best suited and building a proper hybrid cloud strategy. And that's kind of all we're doing. We're taking the best parts here and putting it in here, and therefore you're getting the best of both worlds. And then you've got the ability to have a strategy when the CIO or CFO says, oh, well, what you're doing about cloud? Well, we'll build you a private cloud, Azure Stack, OpenStack, whatever that private cloud looks like, and we'll integrate it into the public cloud. And we don't see any difference between that. And this is where our clever software comes on, and I'll explain what that looks like. So largely, I'm going to shrink a bit actually here because this definitely isn't coming off. So largely, most people, when they build a data center, have got several options. The number one option, 9 out of 10 customers we go and see today, build their data centers that look like this. Okay, so you've got your network, You've got your storage, you know, NetApp, EMC, whatever it is. You've got your servers. You'll connect that together with some fiber channel or something like, you know, iSCSI, whatever that is. Then you'll put your hypervisor on there, whatever that is, VMware, Hyper-V, KVM. And then you'll put some bunch of management tools down the side here to help manage each one of these. And before you've done that and you've built that and it goes live, then you can start to put your applications on that, be it SAP, Oracle, VDI, SQL, whatever those virtual workloads are. And this is the traditional way of working. Nothing wrong with that, and proven probably in 9 out of 10 customers that we go and speak to, that has worked over time. EMC's built a huge business out of the fact that they're very reliable hardware. The downside as an organisation is it creates these silos and it creates islands and specialists. In order to get something done, you know, a new app rolled out, you've got a LUN guy, you've got a RAID guy, you've got your VMware guy, you've got this guy. They all have to come together. They have to get it working, and then that can take weeks, and we actually heard months in some occasions to get that going. And then if something goes wrong, well, you need a server guy, you need your VMware guy, you need your storage guy, a networking guy, and they're all going, wasn't me, right? And it's kind of, you will fix it because most people have got great engineers to be able to fix this. It just takes time. It's just slow. And this is, you know, this is the stuff that is slowing down IT, which means IT struggles to meet expectations. So then kind of the market moved on to this journey to the cloud, where people said, well, you know what, I don't want to build my own infrastructure. I want something built off-site and delivered to me, and I've got one place to go for support. And so you've got the likes of, you know, the FlexPod architectures coming out. You've got the likes of VCE coming together, Cisco getting together with EMC, because Cisco didn't have storage and EMC didn't servers. And they kind of create the VCE, you know, VBlock or the FlexPod. But ultimately, still the same stuff, just in a very expensive wrapper and layer within the infrastructure. And whilst they kind of wrap around a kind of a management platform around that, you still, if something goes wrong, you still need a, you know, a RAID guy and a LUN guy and a, you know, these specialists within your organisation. Turns up on site, very nice, in a big block, generally have to spend a lot of money on that. So they kind of, this was kind of the converged market. So this was definitely a step in the right direction. Then you've got this whole, what I would call the hyper-convergence noise. Every vendor that you can speak to today will say, I've got a hyper-converged story. Yeah, everyone. Maybe not everyone, but most people. And why are they doing that? Well, because 3-tier architecture, those sales are dropping. It's just the nature, and I showed you what the, you know, the share price is dropping there. Hyper-convergence, this market's growing like you know, stink. So when people are going into their, you know, sales guy like me going into a customer, if I'm a NetApp guy, oh, what are you doing a hyper-convergence? Yeah, we've got a hyper-convergence story. So most people have cobbled together something very quickly to say, yeah, we've got a story. It's either limited, it's either hardware defined, it's a kind of a version 1 product, but there's lots of noise there, and we'd be happy to bake off against any one of those because we know we've left that market. We're still in that market, but we've kind of moved on. So this is like the number one way of working. This kind of the second way. This is kind of the third way. Over here you've got the public cloud, the fifth option, and then in between all of that you've got what Nutanix does. So what Nutanix has done is taken that 3-tier architecture, as I said, and directly attached the storage to the x86 architecture. So there's no separate fiber channel. You connect this to an existing 10 gig switch that you've got in your data center, so your existing Cisco or Arista guys can support your infrastructure. You connect that in. Our software sits on each one of these nodes, where irrespective of where they sit, and our software is the clever part. This is the part that is, you know, in terms of keeping up with technology today, hardware is so much harder to redesign and you know, it just takes much longer for hardware to keep up with the market. Whereas our software, the features are coming out on a regular basis. So this software, this is what they do. So we don't do RAID. So you don't need a RAID guy anymore. We do replication factor. Do I want to replicate this data twice or 3 times? Click box. There's no LUNs. So we've made storage completely invisible to people. It's just like, in reality, This is an Amazon A block within your own data center. The same as you don't call up Amazon or Azure and say, yeah, you know, we're a NetApp house or an EMC house. Can you build us this infrastructure? They go, no. How long do you want this service for? How much compute do you want and how much storage do you want? And there's your price. It's that simple. And our software sits there. This does all the deduplication, the compression, all of the synchronous replication that you would expect in the backup, all delivered on our software. And that is the key part. Because ultimately we don't care what hardware this sits on, we'll take advantage of any hardware in the market. Today you buy it on our Nutanix Supermicro block, you could buy it on Dell, and in the new year you'll be able to buy this on Lenovo as well. It's our software on Intel, Seagate, it's just standard commodity hardware. We actually can demonstrate this running on Cisco UCS and HP as well. But we've only ratified those three, we only go to market with those three today. So we don't care about the hardware. Hardware is irrelevant, it's just hardware. But what our software does is it takes advantage and provides all the smart stuff on a really, at the software level as opposed to the hardware layer. So this is a 2U block, and in that there's a 1U switch. And in that 3U, that is your office in a box, that's your private cloud in a box. That is your starter solution with Nutanix, and we're working quite closely with the Arista guys, and that 3U private cloud can be as little as 20K, £25,000. You haven't going to have to go and buy an expensive several £100,000 option. And I think one of the messages that we get from our clients today is they don't want to go to their CIO or CFO anymore and say, you know what? We need 850 grand to upgrade this, this storage environment. People are questioning that. Well, with Nutanix, you just buy what you need. It's a pay-as-you-grow model. So again, another one of the tick boxes there. You buy what you need, and if you grow, you add a node at a time. If you don't grow, you've only invested on what you want. You're not trying to have a crystal ball thinking, well, I've got X amount of budget this year. How much do you think we're going to need in 3 years, 5 years? Let's buy as much as we can now. Fingers crossed, we won't run out of space. Okay? That model means that if you buy as much as you can today, pretty guarantee you within 3 months that infrastructure, there'll be faster SSD, cheaper SSD, better chips, and you won't be able to take advantage of it. You're totally hardware defined by buying as much as you can now. Well, with Nutanix, you buy what you can, and guess what? In 3 months' time, if you grow, you buy another node. And if it's a Haswell chip, great. If it's a new SSD, great. Absolutely, just take advantage of the new technologies. So obviously, we can only work today with virtual environments. So if it's a physical, we can't help you today. So if you're a VMware house, absolutely just run your VMware estate running on our technology. We won't step in the way. If you're a Hyper-V house, absolutely, we'll give you choice. But where Nutanix is going, and this is definitely around how we simplify the infrastructure, is inbuilt with this infrastructure now, we include our own virtualization layer. This is called the Acropolis Hypervisor. So based on KVM, we took out all the stuff that you don't need and put it in there as a virtualization layer. So within that 2U now, and by the way, that's included as software, within that 2U, that is, your virtualization, your storage, your compute, but more importantly, all your management inbuilt as well. So you don't have to have a separate management platform for this. It's all embedded within the software. We only have one piece of software. That one piece of software sits on a range of blocks. So if you've got a big compute requirement, if you've got a big storage requirement, it's just our software that sits there. So your guys have only ever got to learn one piece of software. That's it. The training is a 2-day training course for an administrator of Nutanix infrastructure. Okay, if we bring out a new block, like we just bought out a cold storage node that's just really cost-effective storage, it runs our software. It's not another piece of thing to learn. So Seb, my SE at the back, we're happy to challenge him and put this in your environment, and if you can't get this up and running in an environment in your data center in less than 2 hours, he buys the lunch. Is that right, Seb? Yeah. That's how simple it is to get this up and running, okay? Because you don't have to worry about bottlenecks and connecting and all this stuff. It's all about the time to value. So if it's that simple to install, it's that simple to maintain, to troubleshoot, and all of that good stuff. And the IDC talked about the fact that actually to run an environment like this, it takes 40 to 60% less time and effort for your engineers to manage that environment than it does to do that. So what does that mean? It means that what we can do is elevate the IT guys to focus on the applications. You know, what are the critical apps that we can deliver? Can we improve those apps? So we talk about a lot around Fitness First, which is one of 7i's customers. Their infrastructure was a year ago in a terrible state. 20 racks running a small gym chain in Amsterdam, costing them hundreds of thousands of pounds a year, all physical. The applications kept falling over. The billing system had to be completed. It got halfway through and it had to be manually completed. It was taking hours. We put a block of our infrastructure in with an Arista switch, put that in, 3U, up and running, a couple of hours. They then put their applications on there. We help them P2V their applications, put it on there. Their application guys, within that 1 month proof of concept, were able to go, actually, the infrastructure kind of works. That's great, we can focus on the application. And they fixed all the bugs in their application. They brought their billing cycle down from 3 hours to 20 minutes, and they stopped having to do the manual intervention. So now it's just, and they've gone from 20 racks to 1 rack with our infrastructure. Not just our infrastructure, for the other pieces there too. So made huge amount of savings around power cooling, because all of what we're doing there is fitting very dense amount of compute and storage into 2U, but we're using shared power and shared infrastructure there. So we're not having to power this. It's just, you've just got to power these 2U blocks. So now all we do is focus on the applications that go on there. SAP, we're the only new product that's gone through SAP in the last 7 years. You know, Oracle, VDI, you know, Citrix. You know, if you're a Citrix house, well, our Acropolis hypervisor is Citrix ready. So within that 2U, pop your Citrix on, you're up and running. The ability now to cut your costs down on virtualization, and you know, have something that's ready within 2U, purpose built for Citrix VDI. Absolutely, it just works. And so the benefits of these two solutions here is that they're both software defined. These are all kind of hardware defined. You are defining yourself upside down to the innovations of these organizations through hardware, which is just slow to develop. So now, if we're building you a, you know, private cloud using Azure, which is what we did for Fitness First, we built them an Azure stack, Hyper-V, and then what they do is they've built an infrastructure that lasts for 11 months of the year, right? It's scaled for 11 months of the year. After Christmas, when we come back, we've eaten too much, we've drunk too much, their membership sales, they do more in January than the rest of the year combined, okay? If there's a problem, or they haven't got enough performance on their infrastructure for that 1 month, what we've done for them, by building this Microsoft private cloud, we have the ability to move that application to Azure for that 1 month, to make sure that they've got enough compute to run that application at that busiest time. And after that, guess what? They bring it back, because they know they've got an infrastructure. So they're not buying this 12-month infrastructure that they're running at, you know, 10% utilization. They've bought an 11-month infrastructure that they're running at 60 or 70%, and if they peak, they move it out to Azure. And this is our goal. Our goal is, well, let's say you've got a new application that your developers are working. Absolutely, the best place probably to do that is in the cloud. Spin it up in Azure. Go and fill your boots. You've got a contract with Azure, spin it up. But then what do? Is actually, when it goes to pre-production, then do you want a choice? Do you want to bring that in-house where you can control it and you've got more control over that? Or do you want to run that in the cloud as well? Well, we make that, and the vision of our technology is to make it seamless to move workloads between the public cloud and the private cloud. Because certainly if it's a production workload, you probably want that on your private cloud, where you've got control of that. But then for what do you do after that? Is it to DR or backup? Well, absolutely, that can sit back in the cloud as well. And it's really about helping you build that infrastructure that allows you to choose where the workload sits, either giving you the best SLA, the best cost, or what's important to you. It's giving you that choice.